Delamano Designs. Thanks for joining me today. I am going to show this shaker card that I made for a challenge, the Color Throwdown challenge. This is the first time I've done a challenge for this group, so this was really fun. It's based on using 3 different colors, the blue, the magenta, and olive green. This is the stamp set that I'm going to be using. It's actually an older stamp set from Stamptember. It's, I believe, back from 2017, and it's in collaboration with Neat Tangled. It's no longer available, but I don't have any of the Simon Says Stamptember products that have come out recently, so I just pulled out something from my stash from a few years ago, and these cute little guys are perfect for this card. I stamped I'm using Bristol smooth cardstock because I plan to do some colored pencil coloring, and this takes the colored pencil very well. I'm just inking this with my favorite things, black licorice ink. I stamped 2 images, multiple images to practice, and I'm going to all these little like leaves and acorns. I'm stamping a bunch because I'm plan to cut them out and use them as little shaker bits as well. So I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of them. And see, I have leaves. I wanted to put a bunch of leaves at the bottom, so I colored and cut out multiple of those, and now I'm kind of just laying it around, making sure that everything looks good. I didn't show the coloring just because I'm kind of haven't used my colored pencils a whole lot. That's Gamsol that I was just showing. That helps to really blend colored pencils. So I'm practicing, and you'll see more colored pencil because I really enjoyed using it, and I really like how it turned out. So I'm definitely going to be creating more. Right here, I took a bunch of those little images that I'm going to use for the shaker card on the inside, and I arranged them on the paper and then put them all on a block, an acrylic block, because I'm going to create my own background. This is Simon Says Stamp Fog ink, and I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Fog paper and ink. So what I did is I just stamped this around the paper just to fill the whole background and those gaps. I'm just going to pull off a few of those smaller images and put them on smaller blocks and just stamp those individually in all those little places that need to be filled in. So I wanted to have a subtle background behind the shaker card, and I thought this worked well. Kind of looks like the leaves and the acorns are falling, and actually I think I've got little pumpkins in there too. But so I'm going to cut out my window for my shaker card. This is a wonky stitch square from My Favorite Things, and what I did was I took the largest of the squares and I cut it out of the same fog cardstock, and I wasn't sure if I was going to use that piece that's down on my table or not, so I was just kind of thinking about it, playing around with my idea, and it changed, which that's not uncommon for that to happen. To change your plans, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But this one, I took the next smallest size of those squares and I lined it up in the middle of the big square that I cut out, so that way it will cut out a nice frame. And that inner part I'm not going to use, and that frame there with the stitching, I'll have that for the outside of the card, or the shaker part. All right, now I'm going to cut down my acetate. This is just clear plastic sheet. It's very thin. I cut that down with my paper trimmer, and then I'm going to use my adhesive to adhere it. Trying to figure out the best way to do it, but I finally got it. And this adhesive that I used works really well, and I can't remember what it's called, but I'll have everything linked below. Now I'm going to start working on building up the edges to hold all my shaker pieces. And this foam tape, it's a 1/2 inch foam tape. It's a big roll, and you just trim it down. And I learned this trick from Kathy Zielski. She takes the 1/2 inch foam and folds it in half to get double stacked. That way your shaker bits, when you put it all together, they have plenty of room. And I kind of put a little, took my anti-static powder tool and rubbed it around the edges just to make sure there was no adhesive showing on the edges of that foam tape that those shaker bits could get stuck to. Now I ended up fussy cutting all of those little images out because I don't have coordinating dies for this. I did that all off camera after I colored them and put them in there. I have leaves and acorns, and then these are just some sequins that I had in my stash, and they are the same colors as the colors in the Throwdown, the purple, the blue, and the olive green. So I'm just adding some of those sequins to the shaker card. I thought I had too many, but when I put it all together, I could have definitely used more shaker bits, but it all depends on what you're looking for. So I put some liquid adhesive on there because of the powder that I used. Kind of took away some of the adhesive. And then I just applied a piece of the same fog cardstock on that to enclose it. And now you can see all my little shaker bits shaken up in there. And that nice stamped background. You can see I thought about adding some more, but changed my mind because I really didn't want to mess up that background, and just decided to go with it. So here I thought I was going to put the shaker part of the element on the top portion of my card, and then have my little bear and my other little elements below. But I wanted the shaker part to be the main focus of the card. So instead of doing that, I decided to just go with a square card and put that shaker as like I said, the main focus of the card. But you know, it's nice to play around and kind of see you know, how things go together, how they work, and you know, you change your plans. And this was definitely a card where my plans changed. I glued down those leaves, and then I took one of my colored pencils that was the same color as that fog cardstock to kind of blend in those white areas on the leaves, because I did not want to cut them all out. So I just tried to hide them as best I could with the colored pencil, so they weren't so stark white. And I think it helped. So I glued those leaves down, and then I just trimmed off whatever was hanging. And I decided I needed one more bunch of leaves, so I colored and cut those out. And I put my little stump and my mouse on one side. He's reaching up all those leaves that are falling and acorns. And then I put the bear down on the left. And then I decided to put this on a backing. And I haven't used this paper. It's from My Favorite Things. It's a wood grain paper, and it's super pretty. So I ended up cutting it down I believe it's 5 by 5 inches square, because the shaker is 4 by 4. And so that gives it a nice, I wanted you to be able to see some of that wood grain. I didn't put the sentiment on the front because I just didn't want anything distracting from that shaker. So I decided to put it on the inside. I stamped the sentiment, Happy Fall Y'all, with my VersaFine Onyx black ink. And then I masked the sentiment because I wanted to stamp the little stump underneath it. And then I realized I really didn't have to mask it because I used that same fog ink, and it's lighter than the black, so it doesn't really cover it. If I had used black ink for the stump, then I definitely would have benefited from that masking, which was my initial thought. But I liked that, you know, tone on tone look. So, and that finishes up my shaker card. Love these cute little bear and this little mouse and all this fall feeling. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next